This is The Unspoken Truth. I'm your host, Rob Russ.
And I'm Master and Commander Edward Anderson.
G'day, Ed. How you doing? I'm excited to be doing this week's live with you. What's going on?
Yeah, everything's doing, Robbie. Yeah, let me just,
You all set there on your side?
I got to turn off the volume. Okay, I'm back.
There we go. We get a little bit of feedback in there. So
yeah.
All good. So what's going on, man? What's happening in your day in Minnesota?
Well, my day's been pretty much spent putting together my report for today. So I had to go in today to have my blood drawn for my annual thing, and then I spent the rest of the morning putting together my report in a rush. So I didn't tweak it. It's not that polished, but what the hell? But the content is good. So.
All good. Well, folks, if this is your first time here, welcome. This is The Unspoken Truth. Ed and I like to take a little peek behind the curtain of what's going on in the mainstream media, and we like to give you the real story behind the narrative and what's really going on. So if this is your first time here, you're in for a real treat today. We've got a story about the banks in the UK where they're losing big time, but once again, it's consumers that are facing the consequences of that. The banks don't care about you, folks. They make really terrible, horrible decisions, and the people that are on the receiving end of that are just normal, regular John and Jennies in the community, and it's damaging their financial security. And this is a story that highlights exactly what's going on there. But I've got a question, like, what did you think was going to happen? Later in the show, we've got a series of reaction videos because Ed seems to really like those, and I like to get him really fired up by showing him some of these videos that he's not exposed to. So I'll be sharing those reaction videos with him. So if you want to have a bit of a laugh with us, make sure you stick around to the second half of the show. Folks, we're available as a podcast over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Just search for The Unspoken Truth and you'll find us over there. We're doing pretty well over there, getting lots of downloads and starting to gain quite a bit of momentum. I'm also posting over on Telegram a couple of times a day, and you can find all of these links already down in the description of this live show. I post on Telegram because I simply can't post a bunch of content over here on YouTube because of all the rules and regulations that they have here, and I respect the YouTube account that I have, and I also respect YouTube for giving me the opportunity to showcase our content to the world. And if we can't do it about certain things, that's okay. I'll just find another place to do it, and we do that on Telegram and also on Rumble. So make sure you come on over and follow those links in the description and follow along down there as well. All right, Ed, why don't we get into today's show? Why don't you set the frame for us and share a little bit about the background of what's going on in the UK and the banking system, because it is a absolute disaster as I look at it.
Yeah, well, first of all, shout out to everyone in the Hey Ed WhatsApp group. Hang around, guys. We got a lot to talk about, so it should be a lot of fun. And let us know where if you're watching out there, anybody, please leave a comment or a question in the comment section so we can chat with you. Okay, yeah. So regarding what's going on, so I wanted to do this report today because there was a report out of England about the Bank of England and the consequence of their easy money policies since the 2008 financial crisis, and it's been. We're getting ready to pay the piper, and this was
coming home to roost, is it?
Yeah, and this was an eminently predictable event, and it's not just in England. The same thing is happening here with our Federal Reserve and over there with your Australian central banks. And pretty much all central banks in the Western world are in the same predicament because they're all part of the same club. So they all read off the same hymnal, and what the reason why people need to know about this is because we are going to pay the price for their stupidity and their mistakes. And that's the thing with these central banks, is they know that they are never going to suffer the consequences of their bad decisions because they know that we will bail them out because we need them so much. Personally, I don't think we need them. I think that central banks should be outlawed. But we'll save that for another presentation. So things are starting to come to a head here very soon. And I think imminently here, we are going to feel the pain of the bad decisions that these Federal Reserve banks made.
All right, why don't we throw straight to the report?
I have an infuriating story for you that you will never hear in the mainstream press. So let's get to it.
Because you asked for it.
Okay, so this story just might make your head explode, but you really need to know about it and you need to know what this means for you. So the bad news is that central banks have lost fortunes. The good news is we all get to bail them out. Ah, yes, the free market capitalist system. That is not the free market capitalist system. Let them go under is what I say. We need some accountability in this world. But let's be specific. What am I talking about? So I'm going to refer you to a story out of CNBC about the Bank of England, but really this story applies to all central banks, primarily Bank of England, the Federal Reserve, and the Reserve Bank of Australia, along with the central banks of all of the largest countries in the West. But let's read this story out of CNBC about the Bank of England. The Bank of England is facing major losses on its bond purchases, and it's set to get much worse. Again, this article is about the Bank of England, but we have the exact same story with all the central banks in the Western world. The Bank of England's losses on bonds bought to shore up the UK economy after the financial crisis will be materially higher than projected until the middle of the decade, according to Deutsche Bank. In late July, the central bank is estimated that it would require the UK Treasury to backstop 150 billion pounds, 189 billion US dollars of losses on its asset purchase facility, APF. The program ran from 2009 to 2022 and was designed to improve financing conditions for companies hit by the 2008 financial crisis. It saw the BOE accrue 895 billion pounds worth of bond holdings while interest rates were historically low. Okay, so again, this APF was formed in order to help out the financial industry after the great financial crisis. But they acquired these bonds at extremely low levels. And for a while there, they had a profit on their books from these bonds as interest rates remained low. But they knew that as interest rates went up, they would turn into losses. They knew it. But from 2009 to 2022, they did nothing to reduce the size of their bonds on hand. Well, now interest rates are going up and the value of those bonds are going down. What could possibly go wrong? All right, let's continue. However, the central bank began unwinding that position late last year, initially through halting reinvestments of maturing assets, and then by actively selling the bonds at a projected pace of 80 billion pounds per year from October 2022. Both the Treasury and the BOE knew when the APF was implemented that its early profits would become losses as interest rates rose. However, the pace at which the central banks has had to tighten monetary policy in a bid to tame inflation means the costs have risen more sharply than anticipated. Higher rates have driven down the value of the purchased government bonds, known as gilts, just as the BOE began selling them at a loss. Okay, so the Bank of England had to buy a bunch of bonds in order to rescue the financial industry from the 2008 financial crisis. And they kept doing that all the way up to 2022. And now they're sitting on massive losses on those bonds because they acquired the bonds when interest rates were really low. Now interest rates are going up. Now they have huge losses. And what are they going to do about it? Remember, central banks have the ability to print money out of thin air. They can just go out there and print money if they need money. But instead, they turn to the Treasury. But in this case, the BOE turned to the Treasury Department in the UK for relief. So if they're getting bailouts from the Treasury Department, that means they're getting bailouts from the citizens. In the UK, that's the UK citizens. That's the UK taxpayers. So in America, when the Federal Reserve does it, the American citizens are going to be paying the tab. This whole decision is one bad decision after another. And the reason why these bad decisions keep happening is that there's no accountability. These people will never lose their jobs. There's no downside to making bad decisions for these people, but there is downside for us. We are going to pay the bill. Our taxes are going to go higher and our standard of living is going to go lower. We're not going to be able to buy a house. We're not going to be able to buy the cars that we want. We're not going to be able to afford the lifestyle that we want to live, not through any fault of our own, but through the stupidity of the central bankers. Now, there's a lot more that I want to say on this topic, but in the spirit of respecting your time, let me make one final point. So in Australia, good morning, Rob Russ, they have a brand new central bank president. Now in Australia, I believe they call that the Reserve Bank of Australia, right? The RBA. And as history would have it, she is the first female head of the RBA. Now you would think that she would want to make her mark in history, right? And try to make life easier for the Australian people. make life more affordable for the young people to buy a house. But hold on a minute. She has a much bigger and much more noble concern. She is far more concerned about climate change. Climate change will impact interest rates, incoming RBA boss says.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
There's a lot of lessons to be drawn from this story. One of them being that these people are not here to be your servants. They're not here to look out for your best interests. These are minions with an agenda, and their agenda trumps your interests. They are not public servants. They are servants to the woke mob. Another lesson to be drawn from this story is that the modern financial system it's a house of mirrors. It is fake. It is a fiat world of make-believe. They print money whenever they need it, and they take it from you whenever they want to. They play the shell game with bonds and interest rates and tax receipts. But in the end, their larger agenda is to keep you poor and to keep you subservient. God help you if you try to become wealthy. That's reserved for a privileged few, and they don't want you in the club. As much as you can, you have to extract yourself from the traditional monetary system. Reduce your exposure to your banks. Put as much money as you can into gold and silver, and establish streams of passive recurring income. You have to do whatever you can to preserve your sovereignty, because they are doing everything they can in order to subjugate you. I would love to have you in the Hey Ed WhatsApp community. So if you would like to join that, shoot me an email. My email will be in the description below. If you don't mind, please give this video a thumbs up and please subscribe if you haven't. Ed Anderson, live from Minnesota, signing out.
There it is, baby. Hold it up. That's the way to protect yourself from the government-issued bonds and the money that the Federal Reserve, the Reserve Bank of England, the Reserve Bank of Australia prints to buy off the government, because the government is just incompetent and they can't manage the economy. It's all coming home to roost now, isn't it? That's unbelievable. Not only is it inflation that's all the money printing has caused, but it's all the interest rates that they have to deal with, and now they're upside down in that yield curve.
Yeah, when I talk about topics like this, I try not to get into the tall grass if I can avoid it. But I do want to cover. You do have to cover some of it to like bolster your argument. And other people know that you do know what's going on here. We're not just making this stuff up. On the other hand, we don't want to lose the audience either. So I try to give you enough to understand the basics of what's going on from a 30,000 foot level, and in effect tell you, describe to you how this affects you. So why you should care and why this stuff does matter. These things happen largely by design. That's one of the arguments. That's one of the perennial arguments that we've been having the past few years, is whether or not the disastrous policies that have been put in place the past 3 or 4 years was pure incompetency, or is it by design? Is it part of an agenda?
Hey, I got one for you. Based on incompetency. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So tell me if you think this is incompetent or this was by design. I think it's like you didn't understand the second, third, and fourth order effects of what you were doing. It's government policy. So here in Australia, we're the most taxed country in the world. I can't walk out the front door without spending $20, even if I don't have my wallet or my phone in my pocket. It's just the way this country works. It's ridiculous. If I want to go and fill up my car with petrol, I'll pay about 40 to 44 cents in fuel excise tax. So that means petrol at the moment is about $2.20, which is more expensive than in the United States, by the way, because I did the calculation. So whatever you're paying per gallon, what we get per litre, it's more expensive. It's about 20% more expensive here in Australia than in the US. And that's really no surprise, because we don't produce anything here, even though we have all of the oil reserves that we could possibly need off the coast of Australia to actually produce the oil and become energy independent ourselves. They want to do it from wind and solar. It doesn't make any sense. Why don't we use that fossil fuel to build the wind and solar industry and then do a manageable switch over a period of time? That kind of makes sense. The two things can exist together, but they don't do it. So here in Australia, the government has encouraged everybody, particularly the Environment Minister, Blackout Bowen, has encouraged everybody to buy an electric car, even though electric cars are $70,000 and $80,000. But we're an affluent society, and as I drive around here, my daughter and I, as I'm teaching her to drive, we laugh. And every time we see a Tesla, I don't know about you, but I think these cars look like dolphins. the shape of the thing looks like. If you had the opportunity to design a brand new car, would you make it look like that? I don't fucking. Why did you do that? Like, I know here in Australia we have a lot of American muscle cars and stuff here as well, and the Mustangs are really popular. And I'm like, that's the way to design a car. That's a hot looking car. I'm not into V8s or muscle cars or anything like that, but that's a nice looking car. And here's this Tesla thing. It's like really strange. And every time we drive around, I'm like, I make a dolphin noise at her because she's driving, right? I'm trying to distract her. I'm like, there's another dolphin. And we laugh at it, but they're everywhere. They're everywhere. And the reason that they're everywhere is because the government has encouraged it. But now, let me just share my screen with you here just for a second, because the hypocrisy of this is laughable. And I think this just shows how incompetent the government actually is. So this is a report from just a couple of days ago. Today's the 31st. This is from the 28th of August. Federal Treasurer hints at electric car tax as fuel excise revenue is expected to fall. The Australian government has provided its first indication that tax on electric cars could be on the cards, aiming at recouping the lost revenue from fewer motorists buying petrol and diesel. But that's what you asked for. You asked us to go and... So here I think, here's a classic case of, is that by design or is that incompetence? So that's complete and total incompetence. And when you look at the numbers, as of the 1st of August 2023, the fuel excise, which is added to the Bowser price of the petrol and diesel, is 48.8 cents. So it's a little bit more than that. The federal budget projected the fuel excise, which cost 44.2% per litre at the time, so in 2022, a year ago, to bring $60 billion worth of revenue in the next couple of years. But because there's too many electric cars, all of that revenue is going away. Now these people don't know what to do with any of it. It's like, it's all, and again, it's like the government prints the bonds, the Federal Reserves of the world go and buy the bonds at these ridiculously low interest rates. Now interest rates have gone up and they have to pay for it. At that point, they're going backwards. Now they need to be bailed out. It's all coming home to roost. The federal government subsidizes electric vehicles and tells everybody to go and get them. And I think from memory, it was something like a $7,000 or an $8,000 subsidy that the Australian government would give you to buy an electric car. But you don't know what the car dealers did? They just moved the price up $7,000 or $8,000.
Yeah.
And they just gouged it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll take that. And that's exactly what I would do in a capitalist society as well. But now it's all coming home to roost for the government because they're just a bunch of short-sighted idiots and they can't see beyond the 24-hour news cycle. It's very strange. It's very strange. And, from time to time we look and say, this is all about about perspective where, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. But in this case, with the fuel excise, that is not by design. That's a mistake they made. And with the Federal Reserves and all of these bonds and the interest rates and the inflation, is that by design or are they just doing it to keep it on life support? It's a bit of both, I think, there.
I think this is a clear case of not being accountable. They know that, let's give it a shot. Whatever policy they come up with, they've got the peace of mind of knowing that even if it doesn't work, they've got us to bail them out. Right?
Well, it's the Margaret Thatcher thing, isn't it? Socialism works until you run out of other people's money. And right. Here in this scenario, there's no chance that they can ever run out of anybody else's money. But now the government is moving. Imagine how pissed off you'd be if you went to the trouble to put solar panels on the roof of your house. You got a rechargeable battery. You park your car in there every day. You charge the battery. I did a couple of interviews with some people from I won't name the company, but they're a major company here in Australia for the Electricians Co-op podcast. And they were talking about how the electric vehicle, when you bring it home, it has charge remaining in it. So how can we utilize the charge that's in there to top up the batteries that are there and to utilize that into the grid and a bunch of different things as well? And they were looking to build the infrastructure to actually make all of that happen. And I'm going, well, yeah, it sounds awesome, man. But where are you going to get all the cobalt for the batteries? Like, where are you going to get all the copper to build all of that stuff? It's since come out in the last couple of days. I saw a report with one of our politicians here in Australia. His name's Bob Katter. Not a lot of people like this guy very much, but he talks a lot of sense. And for some reason, I don't know why mainstream media doesn't just listen to the content of what people are saying and don't worry about the character of the person. Like, just if you don't like the guy, fair enough, but just listen to what he's saying. In Western Queensland, we're sitting on the largest deposit of copper on planet Earth. And it's government regulation is stopping that from being accessed. It's like, what are you doing, man? Just like open it up and like create jobs, let industry flourish. Go and tax it to up the wazoo so that can become a form of revenue for the government. Go and do it. What are you doing? but just one thing after another. And I look to it. You always say, you know, that's by design. That is 100% by design.
Liberals do not like people.
Just in general, as a rule of thumb.
You know, and as far as you want incompetence, I'll take your incompetent politicians
I'll raise you.
And I'll raise you. Yeah. All right. So look at California. So California, they've mandated that only electric cars can be built and sold in the state of California by 2030. Right?
Only built and sold there.
On the road, you can only have electric cars. That's it.
Gosh.
You have to have an electric car it's mandated by 2030, 7 years from now. However, last summer, they asked the people with electric cars not to plug their cars in because they ran out of electricity. So what is it? Make up your mind. Do you want me to have an electric car, or do you want me to turn off my electricity? Which one is it? You know, these people are blinded by ideology. You know, they have no sense of consequence or, you know, I don't know, foresight. They can't look. They're so blinded by the ideology. They just figure, you know, it's like a fantasy world.
It's all fun. It's all funny until it's not, right. So in the UK, there was another story that I was going to pull out. It's a little bit hard to understand from some of the video content, but I'll just explain it to you. So Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, has introduced a green tax that allows that if you drive your vehicle that's older than 2006 in the city, and they've got cameras all around the city that use optical character recognition to see your number plate so they can see your registration, see what model it is. They'll send you a bill in the mail for £12.50. Yep. And so if you drive a diesel vehicle that's older than 2016, I want to say, then you get the same thing. So all the vehicles so what they want you to do is to drive a modern vehicle. But if somebody can't afford a modern vehicle, then you're taxing them and you're putting that imposition on them because of their financial circumstance. So why are you punishing somebody because of their financial circumstance? But there's a bunch of people in the UK called the Blade Runners. Have you seen those guys?
I have. I was going to do a report on it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the people that don't know, the Blade Runners is kind of a cool name, right? You know, after the movie, although it's nothing to do with the movie or anything like the story there. That's just what they're called. They're going around and cutting down all of the cameras. So they take the cameras down and they go and huck them in the shit tin. So it's just they're playing a game of whack-a-mole. So every time the Blade Runners go out there and they pull down 20 or 30 cameras every night, the next day those cameras are back up and they're just playing whack-a-mole and they keep doing that until it goes away. I think that there's like better ways to do that. They should just get a drone and spray paint some black paint over the lens of the camera and those people wouldn't know. And I could do that all day long, never get caught and catch you out on that stuff. So that would be a better way of getting it done and you'd never get caught doing something like that. Not that I'm promoting anything, you know, that could create public discourse or anything like that, but, you know, there's other ways around it. And for everything that the government tries to do, there's a way to actually negate that particular thing. And I look at that and I think, why would you create the imposition on people like that? It's unbelievable. And what do you think is going to be the long-term consequence of that? There's no chance you're ever going to get reelected. There's no chance that.
You know what? On the one hand, in a democracy, you get what you pay for. Stop voting for these people. What the hell? I mean,
you had plenty of options.
Look at Central and South America. The reason why all the people keep flooding up to America is to escape these communist, regimes in Central and South America. Well, Central and South America, they are all socialist/communist countries, every single one of them. But they were all voted into office. At every election, those people keep voting the same people into office. So rather than coming up here to America and having us, support you and to pay for your mistakes, why don't you fucking vote for a cabinet for change next time around? The
elections there are rigged as well, the same as in South America, man. What are we supposed to do?
Hey, that's what revolutions are for. You
might be on the
listening to this. You're part of the resistance.
There it is. I am John Connor.
Yeah,
that's where it's coming from.
I don't know. I didn't. Go ahead.
I was going to say that the mantra for the channel, you put it at the end of your report there, reduce your exposure to the banks, get some gold and silver and create some passive income. But the other mantra for the channel is whatever you do, don't trust a single politician. Just don't trust them. If their lips are moving, they are lying. Ignore everything they say and do the opposite. You need to protect yourself. You need to maintain your own sovereignty and you need to look after that. All right, Ed, I want to shift gears here because I've got a few reaction videos I want to take you through. Thank you so much for taking the time to put that report together. That's a really important topic that is a reminder that these governments will do anything that they can to remain in power. They'll do anything manipulating the economy, taking us to the precipice of a nuclear war and probably beyond that. We've seen some pretty severe airstrikes in Russia over the last couple of days, and that is only escalating tensions even more. And my question is, are there operators behind enemy lines in Russia, actual Ukrainian special forces in Russia doing that? Or are these drone strikes coming from Latvia and Estonia? Because the distance these drones have to fly over Belarus and all these other places are only escalating that. And if you think that the conflict in Europe is not going to get worse, you're wrong. It's only going to get worse. And it's all because politicians want that to continue because of money. So whatever you do, do not listen to anything that they say and do not buy into their propaganda. Zelensky said, no elections next year, no elections. And then he came out on the same day and said, I'll do the election if you give me $5 million. Fuck you, man. We've given you $43 billion. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You want $5 million to run an election? We're paying for your pension funds. Now you want us to pay for your corrupt elections? So we can give you five? Oh, my God, man. Whatever you do, don't listen to them. They're corrupt.
This is not a good guy. I've been telling people all along, this is not a good guy.
Yeah, he's a gangster, man. He's not some Churchillian leader that's going to win the war or anything like that. He's just a puppet of the deep state, and he's a sock puppet of all of the bankers that want him to perpetuate the war so they can go in and sweep up and clean it up on completion of it. So I want to show you why. I want to amplify what I'm saying here, meaning whatever you do, don't trust a politician. Don't do it. So I want to show you a report. You might have seen some of these reports. I want to show you what I call is the zombie drug war. We've seen so many TV shows about a zombie apocalypse. When some sort of fungus gets in your brain, we have the TV show called The Last of Us. That's a really good show if you haven't seen it, by the way. Then we have, I Am Legend with Will Smith. That's a great movie. You have World War Z with Brad Pitt. And you think that these zombies are going to be running at you. They're really fast and they're going to eat your brain and stuff like that. But the zombie apocalypse that we're seeing in real life takes a very, very different form. And they're not violent and they don't run at you at 1,000 miles an hour. This is what the zombies look like. So let's take a look. And then I want to juxtapose that against the politicians that are in charge and show you why this continues and how this is perpetuated.
On the doorstep of San Francisco's main government building, a snapshot of America's fentanyl crisis. It doesn't just look stark. An average of one person every 10 hours dies in this city of a fentanyl overdose. It's often here in the drug-ravaged Tenderloin district. Are you a fentanyl user?
Absolutely. I've been an opiate addict for probably 10 years.
Trevor used to inject heroin, but fentanyl, he says, is a different beast, and he wants everyone to know.
I mean, the fact that this isn't a main issue, on TV every night is insane to us. I've never seen anything like it. I'll meet regular people, square Joes, on their way to work, and they'll stop, hang out with me, try this drug for the first time, and then leave their life. Literally, not leave. From that moment on, they're just out here with us.
Is that what fentanyl does?
To some people, it's insane. I've never seen anything like it. No one has.
What's it doing to the streets?
Man, it's turning everybody into, a crazy, violent drug addict.
We're doing an interview. I know, but do that somewhere else. Y'all smoking crack right here, and there's a daycare right there.
We're interrupted by private security, asking them to move out of the view of a nursery. This is a city divided on how to deal with the scourge of drugs.
It is absolutely horrendous. And let me just, before we open that up there, Ed, let me show you the next video. These are the politicians that are in charge. Tell me if you can figure out what's going on here.
Running for re-election in 2026.
Are you running for election in 2026? The reporter asked this guy.
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026?
Yep, heard it. Well, are you?
All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute. Senator. Penny.
That's twice.
That's twice. The guy has no idea where he is, man. Security guy is going to take him away.
Okay.
Somebody else have a question? Please speak up.
She just rolled right over it. No wonder there is a zombie drug war. There's an open border. The Chinese are giving all the ingredients that the cartels need to make fentanyl. They're mass produced at scale. They're creating it. I watched a report. So I was looking at that fentanyl stuff before, and there was a report that the DEA had seized enough fentanyl that was coming across the border to kill every man, woman, and child in America.
Yep.
What?
Yep, in one shipment. Yeah.
Yeah, the scale of it is just unbelievable, man.
Okay. Well, you know what? I think the world would be a whole lot better off if every member of Congress and Senate had the same attitude as that gentleman there in that clip. You know, just be quiet. Just put them all on fentanyl. That's what I say. And
I think he might have been in fentanyl. The only difference was he wasn't bending over holding his legs.
Yeah, I know. Let's put them all on fentanyl. That way, America will have a chance to recover. Just get these politicians out of the way. The less they do, the better off we are. Now, listen, those pictures you were showing in San Francisco. Now, listen, they could be any major city in America now.
Do you have that in Minnesota?
Yeah, we have that in Minnesota too. Yeah, I mean, matter of fact, I saw an article just today. The top cities that were losing population, and St. Paul. St. Paul, Minneapolis, right? St. Paul we're the Twin Cities. St. Paul is like the fourth largest, which is surprising. We first was New York, Los Angeles, Detroit, St. Louis, and St. Paul was in there. People are leaving the cities because of stuff like this. This is what you get when you have liberals in policy. This is what life looks like when liberals are in charge.
What do you think? What do you think personally, Ed, when you see that? Like when you see those people bent over, like just drugged out, and all they're doing is looking for, when those people are not bent over and on drugs, they're looking for the next hit. What do you think of those people? How does that make you feel as an American?
Yeah, well, I think we have an epidemic of really bad parenting and a really bad school system. This is a result of really bad parenting, a really bad school system. The secular family, the nuclear family, has been under attack now for generations. Those are people who probably come from broken families. They have no real support system. And it's very easy for them. They're looking for an easy solution to their problems. In the old days when I was growing up, the drug of choice was booze. You get drunk, and some people become alcoholics. But you had a good chance of not being an alcoholic. Okay, that's bad enough. When you get on the fentanyl or the drugs that these people are on, there's like the chances of getting off of that, the dependency is so much greater.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? That's what that fella said in the report. You take it once, and that's it. You're hooked. They're the most addictive substances on planet Earth and known to man, and it's just such a nasty thing.
Also, you do not see mainstream media covering this issue. They never ever talk about this issue.
That was Sky. That was Sky News.
Okay,
that was a TikTok report. Sky News.
Yeah, on Fox News and there's still a little residue there of traditionalism and conservatism on Fox News and Sky News, but even that is going to is quickly going away.
Do you think that that's because it's a slow news day story and it's just like everyday? That's just everyday life. Like, what is there nothing to see here? Like, it's been that for the last 3 years. Like, so what?
No, I think what the issue is mainstream media, they're owned by woke corporations. Okay, woke corporations, they support the liberal agenda and they give cover to the liberals. So if they go on the streets of New York and they show pictures of, that paints the current administration in a bad light. They don't want to do that. They're all about giving cover to the liberals out there. This is a result of liberal policy. This is the real world problems. Now, when you have the internet and you have more and more, and you got civilian journalists willing to put stuff out, these people are competing now. And they're saying, all right, I guess we have to cover it because we got some legitimate, YouTubers out there doing serious reports and this stuff. We can't be, we got to cover it a little bit. So they're kind of like forced,
they're capitulating.
Yeah. But this is why, this is why people like Vivek Ramaswamy, he's got a huge opening there because nobody else is talking about these. I mean, because people in America, they know what's going on. People around the world, I do think that there's a silent majority in the world who hold traditional and conservative values. They're just not loud. Okay, they're just quietly living their lives. But I think there is. I think there's a slight majority, at least a slight majority of people who hold conservative and traditional values. So when you get one politician who actually talked about the issues that they know about, they're aware of this stuff, they know about this stuff going on, but no politicians talk about it. When was the last time you heard a major, a politician talk about the problem with fentanyl and illegal drugs? It was Trump, frankly. All right. And that's one of the reasons why they hate him, because he talks about things that they don't want anyone to talk about. Swamy,
why wouldn't you want to talk about it, man? It's strange.
Well, hey, if you want to get elected, you should. This isn't easy. For that matter, if you're a journalist and you're just starting off in the business and you want to cut your teeth and you want to earn that Nobel Prize,
get to the border.
There you go. Go to the border.
Go walk across the Darien Gap with those people and record the whole thing and see how dangerous it is. Watch people getting swept away in rivers and mudslides like that. What's that Michael Youn guy? He's done that a couple of times. It's pretty interesting. So yeah, well said, Ed. I feel a little bit of sadness when I see videos like that. I look at that and think, man, that's really, really sad that those people live in such despair and they're living like that. Surely we're better than that. Surely all of our societies are better than that, but we allow it to happen. And that would be considered a success by the Liberals, and that would be considered a success by the Democrats. They think that that's, open borders, that's just kind of how it is, where it's a free-for-all for everybody. That's the result of their policies, and that's what success looks like for them. That's always... I had that conversation with my business partner yesterday. What does success look like to you? And we're trying to define that. We've got goals, but what does success look like? And trying to define what that actually means. And that's actually what it looks like for the Democrats.
Well, another cynical way of interpreting what's going on with this dramatic increase in addiction is that, if you're addicted, you're not a threat. You're compliant.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Well said. Yeah, well said. All right, I want to shift gears here, Ed, because I've got a couple more of these reports which are really cool. This might be coming to a city near you, or maybe even to your country. So in France, I don't know if you've heard this report, they've said that no more short-haul flights. So if you want to get on a plane and the plane flies for 2.5 hours, you know what? You can just get in your car and you can drive there. So essentially, just about every flight here in Australia would be considered short haul. It takes about 90 minutes to get to Brisbane, about 90 minutes to get to Melbourne, and about 90 minutes to get to Adelaide as well. You think it's a bit further away, but not really. Just we fly a bit diagonal to the south, and you're kind of there. It takes about 3 hours to get to Cairns. So, if you come south of Cairns to Townsville, that's kind of the radius from Sydney to Townsville in that 2.5 hour time frame. But to drive from Sydney to Townsville is like thousands of kilometres. It's a very long way. It'll take you a couple of days to do that drive. And the amount of pollution that you would create driving your vehicle, making that happen, is greater than what your carbon footprint would be if you were flying a plane. What a load of garbage that actually is. So I've got a report here that shows you how this might be coming to your country. So they want you to own nothing and be happy. They also don't want you to go anywhere in your stupid 15-minute ghetto. But they're going to take your ability away to fly, not through central bank digital currencies and social credit scores, but by stupid government policies. Let's have a look.
Here to a few basic policies, one of which is whatever Canada is doing legislatively, do the opposite. But I may have to expand that policy to include France. And here's the latest reason why. The country has banned short-haul flights in the name of reducing carbon emissions. This applies to any destinations within France that can be reached in under 2.5 hours of a driving time. How long before this craziness gets to America?
Not long at all. I mean, what we see happens in Europe comes to the United States shortly. This has been part of a long-planned effort to fulfill the World Economic Forum's vision of, you'll own nothing, be happy. Well, this is you will go nowhere and be happy. And we're already seeing Bloomberg News is reporting that the idea of cheap airline travel in Europe is a thing of the past as, quote, climate compliance rules, unquote, get more and more strict. What they're doing is their government is banning these short-haul flights, forcing people into cars with a much higher death rate, by the way. You're much more likely to get in a car crash and die than a plane crash, number one. But this is the idea of that we're doing this to save the planet. Now, the French government admitted that this isn't even going to impact CO2 emissions. So it's actually completely symbolic in terms of the planet or the environment, but it's actually a major imposition on the French citizens. And it's spreading to Germany, Austria, other countries in Europe, and you can bet Canada is going to jump on this bandwagon. It's a net zero commitment. The BBC has already said, what would a flying free world look like? The fix is in, and it is coming to the United States. Their goal is to make this global and put restrictions. We already see the city of Oxford putting in 15-minute cities, hearkening back to the days of East Germany with travel restrictions. Let me see your papers. You cannot leave your sector. That's what we're dealing with here. This is spreading. And it started in Europe, by the way, going after the food supply, going after high-yield agriculture and animal agriculture. And guess what? John Kerry announced last week that agriculture is now in the climate targets in the United States. So they're going to go for food first and then our transportation. They're already banning gas-powered cars, creating intentional car shortages. They are abolishing the middle class. They are treating us like the unwashed masses, and they are literally going to make it so that vacations and seaside vacations are going to be a thing of only the wealthy. That's the goal of this. That's what they mean when they say you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, you'll go nowhere.
It's like the Hunger Games. Before I let you go, though, every part of this climate agenda is somehow inconveniencing literally everybody on Earth. So why do people go along with it when none of their predictions have come true?
Well, this is almost like a religious fanaticism. It's the idea of we have to do this. The United Nations tops. In fact, you can't even disagree with the UN. They did a partnership with Google. They own the science, So they're doing it in order to achieve this utopian vision, and it's like they're imposing a religion, a austerity upon the rest of us. And by golly, they're going to make it happen. They're collapsing our energy, our food, our transportation, our free speech. And this is all through corporate government collusion, mostly without an ounce of democracy, just like COVID, when they closed schools and churches and work or issued stay-at-home orders and canceled weddings, funerals, and medical procedures. All of that was done without a single vote. It was done because the virus demanded it. Well, now they changed the word virus to the climate demands it.
What a fucking joke, eh? It's not funny, though.
No.
But it's funny. I can't help but laugh. The reason I can't help but laugh is we talked about this on a show on Monday that's over on Rumble, folks. We didn't do that on YouTube, a bit close to the electric fence. And the reason we couldn't talk about it is the people that are in charge, the left, and all of these crazy zombies that are in charge, they're overstepping their mark now. They tried it on for size with COVID. They tried it on. Everybody complied. Everybody did that. But I think everybody is wide awake now. There's a large percentage of people that are wide awake. And you said it just before that there's the silent majority, the silent conservative majority that just don't say anything about anything. They're awake. They know what's going on. And people are just not going to stand for this BS anymore. Imagine how pissed off you'd be if you owned an electric car and then all of a sudden you have to pay more taxes. And the cost of charging that car has gone up significantly because the government mismanaged the promotion of giving you a subsidy to give you electric cars so you can drive on the... I don't know, man, it just boggles my mind, the stupidity of it. And the overreach that they're going for now will be their downfall. That's what's going to bring them down. That's what's going to end it. And it goes to the heart of that analogy of that the rhinoceros running at you in the 300 movie and he throws the spear. And we talked about that on Monday, folks. I'd encourage you to go and watch that report that we did on Monday over on Rumble. You can find the links in the description. But man, it's a government overreach is where we're at, and people won't stand for it.
You shall not pass.
it's not a joke, right? You know, those videos and those movies from the 1960s. That's what they said. Here we are.
You know, this whole business about determining how and when you can travel and how far you can travel sounds an awful lot like central planning. And
it almost seems easier than social credit scores and central bank digital currencies. They just change the legislation, make the rules so you can't fly on one of those planes. Then everybody has to comply. Don't worry about the bullshit of it all. And that's what they're doing.
You know,
faster.
You know, here in Minnesota, Minnesota is actually a pretty big state, but it's almost all rural, right? You know, you have St. Paul, Minneapolis, and you got smattering a few other, you know, relatively large cities, but mostly it's small towns and a lot of wilderness, right? And there are a lot of people up north who they're in order to take a plane to Florida. First, you got to take a local plane, you know, called Ryanair from, you know, Ely down to St. Paul, and then you catch the plane. So those
you need a connecting flight,
right? You need a connecting flight. So and America is pretty big, so we have many parts of our country who rely on these small regional airlines to take them to the hubs for the bigger flights. So again, listen. Whether there's going to be finally going to be a groundswell against all of this, hey man, your lips to God's ear, right? Let's hope, you know, because we do have the power. The number of these elites that are controlling our lives is actually minuscule. And if you add them all up, it's probably less than 10,000 of them, you know, but they're in the right spots. They're in the positions of power. You know, they're in the decision-making parts of the government. But they're part of an elite cultish cult, right? And they all pay their dues. They all bow to the master. They all kiss the right rings because they all want to, you know, these are power-hungry people. Some of them are just plain ideologues. There are, you know, those idiots who park themselves in the middle of a road in Arizona there, leading to the fireman or whatever it's called,
Burning Man Festival.
Yeah, festival. Those people, when you get down to that level, those are the true believers, right? Those people, you know, they're all in. They're completely. They've drank the Kool-Aid and they're all in. But the people who came up with the plans, I don't think they really believe it. I don't think that Charles Schwab of the world really think there's a climate crisis.
Well, there's not, because
it's a vehicle to get there. Yeah,
they're not hiding it anymore. You're 100% correct. They don't believe it, and I know that they don't believe it from that very report there, where they're scrapping short haul flights. You can't do that anymore, and they're saying that that's because of the guise of climate change. But then they admit that it won't make any difference to climate change. So that is absolute 100% validation of the circular hypocrisy that they're going through. It's all because of climate change, but when we ban those flights, it won't make any difference to climate change. And it's like they deliberately create the crisis, and the crisis is so you react, and now you're dependent upon them. So here in Australia, we have the federal government creating an energy crisis by saying no more fossil fuels, making all of that go away. And in the process, they're causing all sorts of problems in society. That eventually it's going to lead to brownouts and blackouts because there's no more electricity. And they're going to have to switch it off for a period of time. We're going to end up in some third world scenario because of some green ideology, some zealotry. It's very, very strange. I want to throw to the next video, and I want to show you how the useful idiots in the media, how they try and tie one weather event back to climate change. And I've been saying this forever, it used to be global warming, folks. Remember, it used to be the South Pacific Sea, and now it's the Indo-Pacific. They changed these words to try and get into your head. It's not global warming, because we're actually in a period of cooling in the cycle of Earth when you look at it on a massive timescale. It's a cooling period, not a global warming period. So they changed it to climate change. But we can't even predict the weather. How are we going to change the climate? These people are just living in a fantasy world. And I want you to pay particular attention to how stupid this woman is. And when I see stuff like this, I'm going to call it out from now on. I'm going to say that this woman doesn't the echo chamber, we talked about this the other day, the echo chamber that she lives in her news studio, she wakes up in the morning, she gets dressed, she puts on her makeup, she gets in the car, goes to work, parks the car, goes in there, and everybody in that echo chamber where she is believes the same thing. And the minute that somebody comes in from the outside to present a different point of view, she's just like, can't believe it. She can't believe that might actually be true. But she's so dismissive of it. And when she's presented with the facts, she doesn't know what to do. Remember, it's that famous saying that Ben Shapiro has. I don't know if he's famous for saying it. I don't know if it's his. Facts don't care about your feelings. The facts don't care about this woman's feelings. And she's so, like, hurt. Oh, that's not true. What you're saying is not true. Just watch how squeamish she is. And she's another useful idiot of Klaus Schwab, Deep State, Bill Gates, and all of this bullshit, fake agenda that they're trying to force down our throats. And Vivek does a good job. The only thing he was missing was this. He missed flashing his pearly whites at her, which he should have done.
Hurricane that is now approaching. You've called climate change and that agenda a hoax. You said more people are dying from bad climate change policies than there are of actual climate change. But according to a UN agency, extreme weather events compounded by climate change caused the death of 2 million people between 1970 and 2021. Can you offer a shred of evidence that more than 2 million people died from converting to clean energy?
I can offer clear evidence that the number of climate disaster-related deaths is down by 98% over the last century. The number of people who died of hurricanes, tornadoes, heat waves, and other weather-related events in 1920, for every 100 that died then, 2 die today. And the reason why is more plentiful, abundant access to fossil fuels and technology powered by fossil fuels. I can also tell you today, it is a hard fact. None of these things are disputed. 8 times as many people die of cold temperatures than die of warm ones. The right answer to all temperature-related deaths is more plentiful, abundant access to fossil fuels. The Earth is covered by more green surface area today than it was half a century or a century ago because carbon dioxide is plant food. And carbon dioxide as a percentage of the atmosphere is still at a relative low through human history. Those are hard facts. And I think we have to acknowledge those facts when having this debate.
Well, there's a hard fact of the hurricane that is now approaching. The mayor, a 3-generation St. Petersburg resident, says he's never seen anything like this, the ocean warming. But let me move on to some
Andrea, may I respectfully offer a response to that? And I mean this with due respect. If someone on the other side were an uneducated person from Arkansas who didn't go to college and offered one weather event as an N of 1 anecdote to help support a theory of global climate change, you'd laugh off the stage as a rube for saying they don't follow data. The same shoe has to fit the other foot. Follow the actual data.
I'm not talking about one person's opinion. We talked to professors, academics.
You literally just quoted one person's opinion, with due respect. That's exactly what you just quoted. And I think that that's what's driving this kind of false narrative as opposed to the facts that I'm citing.
Well, and Dr. Michael Mann, whom we interview often, and other professionals in this field.
She can't believe it. He just cited all of the actual facts, rolled right over them, and said that one guy who's a mayor, who's been there for 3 generations, said he's never seen anything like it. So what if it's a once in 3? How can he be there for 3 generations anyway? That doesn't make sense. You only live for 1 generation.
You know, that's the thing about the liberals. They live in such a bubble. They have not exercised. They don't get a chance to exercise their debating muscle, right?
No, not at all. And she was kind of trying to go there a little bit, but he would just like wipe the floor with her. It's kind of funny.
You know, they're used to having compliant guests. They have guests on who are part of the club. And their guests are there to bolster their narrative. So when they have somebody on who is actually very articulate on the subject, like him, you know, that's why you do not see liberals on debate stages. You'll never see a liberal on a debate stage. They don't, because they know they can't win an argument. So
yeah, because the facts don't care about your feelings, and the reality of what he's saying there, he's quoting the statistics. That's the truth of it, but she won't acknowledge it. So what? There's a big hurricane. Okay, cool. There's a big hurricane there, and it's an unprecedented weather event. But what has that got to do with climate change?
It's not unprecedented. We have a hurricane. It's hurricane season.
But what I'm saying to you is that it might be unprecedented for that location because we've never had a really big one there like that. But you have them there all the time. Every year you have them there like that. Like, what are you talking about, man?
It's like the first time is, the news is, it's the first time it's approached that particular bay.
That's what I'm saying. It's unprecedented in that location, but no, it's not.
In like 100 years, okay?
Details.
I mean, where hurricanes don't have roadmaps. They don't have to. Stuff happens. It's weather. Their logic is so bad. These people, this is why they can't win an argument, because they don't bother learning logic, because as soon as they try to employ logic, they always lose. They know their arguments don't hold up. Vivek, man, forget running for president. He should just start a podcast. He'll make a lot more money. He'll probably be a lot more powerful, that way. Just start.
Like a Joe Rogan type, powerful like that.
That's right. I mean, so whether he makes president or not, this guy's got a huge future. Now, he doesn't need the money, quite frankly, like Bet David, right? They don't need the money, but these guys have a lot of influence going forward. So I think we're gonna hear Vivek is going to be a driving force in society, I think, going forward, whether he's president or not.
Yeah, well said, well said. All right, I want to throw to the final story for today, and I couldn't go past this video without bringing it back to the front of the public discourse on this small channel that we have and sharing it with this very small audience that we have. I just don't want people to forget what actually Joe Biden did in Afghanistan in that withdrawal and the absolute disaster that was, and how nobody has been held accountable despite what he ordered. And despite what happened, the buck has to stop with somebody, but nobody has been held accountable. And it goes to the very heart of what we started off by saying, we're talking about banking today, climate change, and now we're talking about these idiot politicians who are never held to account because there's no consequence to their action, because they never feel the consequence. But people, real human beings, very real human beings, feel the consequence of their action. And I want to play this video to bring it back to the front of the public discourse, because not enough has been said about this and nothing has been done. And it should be an election issue, but it's not an election issue in America for some reason. But Australia here supported all of this, and I can't believe we just blindly follow everything that's going on from the United States. Yeah, you're our closest allies. Yeah, we get it, but we don't have to follow everything blindly, and we're partly complicit in this actual activity.
2 years has gone by, and where are we? To be frank, we're knee-deep in bullshit, is where we are. Everyone who held a key position in the military still has that position or has been promoted. John Kirby still sits on his perch, which apparently faces the opposite direction from where all the action was. Blinken continues to delay key evidence by delaying subpoenas. Not a single general slapped down their stars, which should have happened 2 years ago when Biden ignored his reliable intelligence. Not a single person has been held accountable. Our so-called leader can't seem to even utter their names in public, not even once. Mr. Biden has run his entire political campaign for 50 years as the family man. Well, I've got news for you, sir. The curtain has been lifting, and that campaign slogan will never work again. We have seen what's going on in your family, and even worse, we've seen how you've been treating us as Gold Star families. And there couldn't be anything more disgusting and cowardly than the way you have treated us. You are a disgrace to this nation. You have no business having ultimate command over our military, and I regret not saying that to your face when I had the opportunity in Dover. I felt it more important to bite my tongue, but I also had more important things on my mind at that time, like receiving my son's lifeless body stateside. While I stood there on the tarmac, watching you check your watch over and over again, all I wanted to do was shout out, "It's 2:30, asshole." But out of respect to the other grieving families, I bit my tongue once again. Well, as you could probably tell by now, I'm done biting my tongue. You, sir, stole their lives, their futures, their dreams, and have ripped apart 13 families. You cannot even man up and admit that. You, sir, gave us all the title Gold Star family. You, sir, discredit honor and integrity.
It's some heavy stuff to round out the podcast, but it's important. You should remember, if you are in the military, you need to leave immediately. If you're in the police force, you need to leave immediately, because the rules, the orders that they give you will end up getting you killed, or you'll be killing somebody else on behalf of an old man who doesn't know his ass from his elbow and cannot string one sentence together, never mind utter the names of the people that were killed because of your disastrous policies in an ultra high-speed withdrawal that simply did not have to happen. It didn't have to be that way. It didn't have to work out like that. That was 1,000% his responsibility and his fault. The military pushed back on it and said, no, we're not going to do that. That's going to cause problems. They said, no. Mark Milley came out on the public record and said, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. But the boss has given the orders. So the buck stops with him. That I understand that guy's upset with the people in the military, but again, they're just following the orders. They're following the orders. And look what happened. It destroyed 13 families' lives like that. But let's not forget about all the other people that died in Afghanistan. In 2001, after we went there, and apparently Osama bin Laden, whoever he is, if that was even real, got away, why did you move to nation building? When you found Saddam Hussein, why didn't you get the hell out of there? There's been like more than 1 million Iraqis that have been killed, all because of these policies. If you were in the military, get out, leave. They're going to send you to a war we're going to end up in a nuclear war in Europe, and we're going to end up in a war in the Pacific. Do not comply with what they say. Do not do it. Leave. Find something else to do. Do not join the military. You don't want to put your life on the line or die on behalf of Joe Biden, do you? Really? Really? Is that really what you're going to do? If you're in the Australian military, are you going to put your life on the line and die because of Anthony Albanese? Are you kidding me? He's the most divisive Prime Minister in Australian history. I'd go and put my life on the line and fight for what I believe in if I believed in it. But you can't honestly sit there and say that you believe in Joe Biden. No normal, rational person would believe that Joe Biden is a good president and the leader of the free world. No normal person would believe that. So why would you follow those orders blindly? Don't do it. Leave and find something else to do with your life, for heaven's sake, before you end up like that, before your families end up like that, man. That is so tragic, man. So sad.
Yeah, no, that was a very powerful video, and I'm always impressed how the average person is often the most eloquent person in the room, right? He made his point much more eloquently and succinctly and descriptively than the smoothest talking politician in the room.
I agree.
Right? And this is a constant theme. When you get the average person who's in front of a Congress, or they're doing an interview for a local TV station, they tend to have thought through the issue pretty carefully, and they do a pretty good job of expressing their thoughts. So I am often impressed with just the average person being able to tell their story and get their message across. I mean, that guy you can tell it's authentic, man. He had nothing to gain by saying what he said, right? I'm sure as far as he's concerned, he had nothing else to lose, right? So he was we were getting his story unvarnished, and we need to hear those stories more often. That kind of statement should be on the evening news as often as possible. And it's not just those 13 people that died in the tarmac, that day. But we left behind thousands of people who were friends of ours, people, allies of ours who helped us while we were there, and we left them behind stranded, who are now they're at the mercy of enemies. And I'm sure that a lot of them had to have been killed.
Imagine being in a position in the government, whether you're in the military, you're a contractor, you're in some position in the government, and you're complicit in creating artillery rounds that are going to Ukraine. You're complicit in the exchange and the transaction of millions of dollars to the Ukrainian government to pay for their social security pension funds. You can't tell me that those people sitting there at the computers doing those transactions and going through that process are not sitting there going, fuck, why are we paying for their social security, man? Why are we paying for their pensions? Why on earth are we in a war in Europe? I'm here in the United States, sitting here in Washington in an office. Like, what is going on here? Surely those people are not going, yes, we need to perpetuate the war. Yes, we need to give them more money. Yes, we need to support them. I just don't believe it, because any normal, rational person would say, I don't want a war. Those people are dying. Come on over to my Telegram channel. Come on over. Come on over and come and watch some of the videos. The videos are covered up, but I dare you to press the button, because the second you press the button and uncover what's there and you see these people getting blown to pieces, you see Russian medical parties being blown up by American anti-armor weapons. Why are you firing anti-armor weapons at medical parties? First of all, you shouldn't be doing that, because they're not designed for that. That's a kind of the waste of the weapon system. But second of all, it's against the Geneva Convention for you to target medical parties. But you're doing that anyway. Why are you flying drones across the top of injured Russian soldiers with no weapons, dropping hand grenades on them and blowing them to smithereens? They're war crimes that are happening every day. If you support this war and you're perpetuating it in any way, shape, or form, if you work in government, if you work in military contracting, defense contracting, you are perpetuating war crimes. You're complicit in war crimes. If you knew about a crime and you didn't report that to the police, you're complicit in the crime. You can be roped into all of that. If it's a serious crime that caused serious harm and there was a bad outcome to somebody like that, you can get in a lot of trouble for that, particularly if you don't speak up and say something about it. But the people that are perpetuating this in the military right now are complicit in the war crimes in Ukraine, on our side. And I'm not saying that the Russians are not doing that, but I'm saying to you that you're complicit in it. You're perpetuating. Stop it. Stop it. Stop complying with what politicians are telling you to do. These people have no interest whatsoever in you. They don't care about you. They don't care if it's going to cost you your life. They don't care. I promise you. It kind of fires me up, Ed, and it makes me want to. I pulled down a few videos out of Telegram just the other day. I'll post them in the channel. I'll cover them up just so if people don't want to see it, then they don't have to look at it. But it comes with a really stark warning. This is not R-rated stuff. This is not XXX type rated stuff like pornography, like that you see the worst depravity of humanity. This is the absolute worst of humanity. Human beings killing each other at close range with high-powered weapons, blowing each other to pieces. And we're perpetuating it. Joe Biden's perpetuating it. The other day, we sent him another $250 million because of an accounting error. We overestimated how much all of that stuff was going to cost. There's a spare $250 million. Just give them the cash. There we go. Somebody sat there on a computer and did a transaction, man, and did that. You're perpetuating war crimes. That person, stop it. Quit your job. Someone else will fill the breach and go in there. But it won't go away until you stop. That's what I'm saying. And it won't. You say it. You said it at the start of the show. Stop voting these people in. Stop perpetuating it. You have the opportunity. There's more of us than there is of them. If we all just don't comply and we all say, no, we're not going to do that. No, I'm not going to put that nappy on my face and cover my face up, even though it's an unequivocal fact that that nappy that goes on my face doesn't prevent anything. It's a fake lie. They're lying to you. Stop lying. And this is the unspoken truth, folks. This is the unspoken truth that none of them want you to know. Anyway, that's my final rant as we close out the show. I'll hand the microphone over to you as we close it out. Ed, what are your final comments for today?
Well, this is one of the reasons why Vivek has set himself aside from the group, right? He was the only one on that stage to actually, talk down about the war, to actually, disassociate himself with the war, saying that the war is bad and that we shouldn't be in it. He was the only one to say that we should not be supporting that war in Ukraine. I can think of three reasons why the public is either agnostic or supportive of the war in Ukraine. The first one is the media. The media, they've been telling obfuscation, right? They have not been telling the whole story about what is really behind the war and what's going on in the war. So the media has been a cheerleader. They've been a propaganda arm for the Ukrainian government and for our government in promoting the war. The second reason is that normalization process that you often talk about. You know,
The normalcy bias, yeah.
the normalcy bias, right? Yeah, okay. You know, they don't even if they hear, 350 to 400,000 Ukrainian soldiers dead by yesterday. You know,
Doesn't affect me. I'm in Cronulla.
Yeah. You know, the people hear it and say, well, it's a number, and it's kind of hard to, you know, relate to that. All right, so what does it really mean? Okay, it's a number. Okay, it's an interesting number, but they don't really. That's why watching the videos that you're mentioning on Telegram might help, you know, clarify what war is really like and what, you know. There's that, and then finally, I think one of the reasons why people are kind of okay with it is, well, I guess that was my final point. Is they don't really realize they don't have a real tactile sense of what war, you know, really means. It's kind of, oh yeah, that's the other one. It's over there. You know, when it's over there. You know, why should I really care so much? It's over there. Doesn't affect me, right? So that kind of distance. And America, just through its, you know, geography, we're kind of privileged that way. We can afford to look at the world a little differently than, I mean, if you live in Romania, or if you live in Hungary, or if you live in Germany, you are very astute. You watch the evening news. You learn about other countries. You want to know what's going on in other countries because
you speak their languages as well.
Yeah, and because, you know, they're right there, and what's happening there is going to affect you. Here in America, everyone's pretty far away. Yeah, we've got Canada, but they don't amount to much. You know, now Mexico, but people don't. We have the luxury of not having to pay attention to the rest of the world so much.
Same here. Same here in Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. It's a good reminder, and I got one final slide I want to share with you as we close it out, and it's this one here. It goes to the very heart of what you said. Why isn't COVID affecting you people? So talking to two Amish people, well, they don't have TV. That's exactly the reason why COVID's not affecting you. That's the reason why all of this is being perpetuated, is because of the media. The media is the virus. The media is the drug of a nation that's causing all of these issues. Remember, ladies and gentlemen,
if you're listening to the transmission, you are the resistance.
All right, let's get out of here. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Yeah, bye.
We'll be right back.